Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's already been a very busy week for us folks. You know, we've had all sorts of relationship drama, and just in time because today's episode, we're talking about what even is a healthy relationship with life-affirming sex educator Vanessa Geffrard, also founder of the wonderful VagEsteem program, workshops, and also podcast. And so, welcome, Vannessa.
Listen, this is a professional broadcast. We had music. We had a spinning thingy. Come on. I'm excited.
I'm trying to put on the show. I'm trying to do the whole thing for
this is package for TV. Let's go. I'm ready.
So I obviously get the question a lot if things are healthy, if they're not healthy. I hear all types of weird things out there, you know, but things first, I want you to just tell people a little bit about how you go about educating the people, because I know you don't just you're not just going into everyday settings. I know you've been in barbershops. I know you've been all types of places educating the masses. So tell me a little bit about your life-affirming sex education before we get into anything.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and just everything you're doing is so amazing and so affirming. So we salute you, and we are giving you your flowers now. Anyway, so I started a platform, VagEsteem, which essentially is encouraging folks with vaginas to have courageous conversations about love, sex, and everything in between. And so I opened up my home and had like my homegirls come, and we just started talking about different topics because I just felt like it was important for adult Black women to have spaces to have affirming conversations where we're sharing our stories, but they're also getting real life important sex education and the tools that a lot of us never got. And it's outgrown my home. I do community workshops, and now I'm doing workshops virtually, of course. And then I expanded to a podcast. So I'm trying.
Tell people your story about how it is that you became the sex ed lady, that you became the VagEsteem lady who everybody is out here coming to for the good.
Oh man, so I mean, it started, I mean, I have a huge story, but I would say it started from like my background of going to Catholic school, being the child of 2 Haitian immigrants, and me and Chantelle share that. We have the island connection going on where we don't have a lot of conversations around sex and sexuality. And then when I got to high school and then college, I was like, wait, something's missing here. There's so many people walking around with tools without like the right tools and the proper tools that they need to be sexually healthy adults. And so on my college campus, I started doing testing events and started throwing condoms at people and started coming up with all types of different activities like cookies and condoms to encourage people to have these conversations. Sex education is not something that is mandated across the United States. So person to person, state to state, city to city, it looks differently. So a lot of us don't have the basics, and then we grow up into adults who still don't have the basics. And so, yeah, VagEsteem is kind of like my way of trying to sow those seeds and get us right. Okay? Get us right.
So you work, even though you do workshops and love Black and brown women, I know you've done workshops with men, and I know you've done workshops with boys.
Yes.
So what are you seeing out there? What are you seeing?
Okay.
How's it looking?
Listen, this is right, okay? Because I am real right. Like just last night, I was having a parent workshop, like teaching parents how to talk to their kids about like sexting and online activities. And I presented scenarios. And one of the scenarios was like Maria sent pics to John. Her and John are going together. John sends them to Jimmy. And essentially Jimmy post them all around the school, and they're like seniors in high school. So I was like, all right, y'all.
Jimmy, right?
Jimmy and John. So I was like, so what, if you were Maria's parents, essentially the scenario was, what would you do, right? And so I was like, well, if you were Maria's parent, what would you say? What would you do? And the parents they were going nuts in the chat. They were like, man, you know, I would tell her, like, I told you about your sacred body. Why would you do that? You should have said no. So they had bars for Maria. But when it came to, I was like, okay, I'm gonna pause y'all right there. Let's go to John and Jimmy. And so I was like, if you were John and Jimmy's parents, what would you say to them? 3 comments. 3 comments. And one of the comments was, boys will be boys. Second comment was, boy, why would you do that? You want to go to jail? Third comment was, I mean, Maria seems like a thought to me. So essentially, I say all that to say that parents don't believe in parenting. People don't believe in parenting boys for some reason. And so I had to go on my soapbox on them and let them have it, because I was like, y'all, can you scroll up in the chat? Can you see how we responded to Maria? But yet we had nothing to say to the boys in the situation who violated trust, who spread information that was not consensual. This is the problem that we're having across. Girls are supposed to be the sexual gatekeepers, even though you never gave them tools to be gatekeepers. Okay, that's weird. And then for boys, you just expect them to just show up with, you just expect them to show up with dick in their hand. That's it. Like, it's not.
And what's wild is I was talking to a middle school teacher and I said, how common is it that somebody has like a sex tape or photo released? And they said, we probably have about 12 every year. And I was like, you have 12 every year? Which means that, like, this is not an abnormal experience for a young girl to be having.
Right,
and
right.
When I worked with her dad, his first thought was, I failed. When his daughter had a video released by a grown man, mind you, like a 20-year-old dude, took a video of a girl who was 14 years old at the time. He released it out. And the dad was so ashamed because he basically felt like his as a father, he said, the one thing I tried to do as a father, I failed at. And I was like, what? This is the thing.
Right. Right. It's absurd. It's sad, but it just, to me, last night just proved, like, I thought we were beyond this. I thought, like, in light of the Me Too's and the consent scandals, like people would have been like, oh man, I got to do a better job at raising my son. No, they still want to put it on, like, all right, well, I'm gonna just put all this responsibility on a girl. But yet the issue is that we never teach girls any tools. Like, all they taught them is to say no. And then you didn't really teach them how to do that either. So essentially, when I have conversations with boys and with men, a lot of it is, you know, a lot of them don't have the tools either. And a lot of times no one wants to engage in these conversations or hold them accountable. I'm finding that they're open to it once we have like a real discussion. But a lot of what I'm hearing from like high school, 8th grade boys is, oh, well, she shouldn't have been wearing them short shorts, or, you know, all of the typical stereotypical stuff that we hear. And then again, if we were never given the tools, we grow up to be grown people still spouting out all of this misinformation.
And I always wondered, like, when were we supposed to learn? Like, between being good girls who weren't doing anything and grown women who was having sex, like, where were we supposed to learn all of this other stuff about consent and telling people what we want and pleasure? But that brings me to the next part of this, which is when people are actually in a relationship already.
Yes.
People think that's it. Like, you know, consent received, we're good. Like, that means now there's rules around having sex. So I took the liberty, and we're gonna do it when we get right back from this break, because I wanna let people have a second to really get here. I took the liberty of gathering some of the internet's finest advice for you to react.
You're trying to give me a heart attack.
Because I really feel like, you know, we could talk about so many things, but there's so much advice out there. Everybody's an advice guru. All right. So everybody these days is an advice guru, right?
With no credentials, no nothing, no background, just talking.
So we're gonna start with some internet goodies that are popping up. And I think the best part of you is your in-person, on-site reactions to stuff. So I decided, let me use that to our advantage.
I don't know what's to come. I don't know what's to come. I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack.
Let's get Vanessa's reaction to relationship advice floating on the internet. First advice, when a girl thinks of her future with her boyfriend, it's normal. But when a boy thinks of his future with his girlfriend, he's serious.
Man, y'all know my nerves.
Is that valid advice? Would you tell the girls in your workshop this advice?
Oh my gosh, it's just ridiculous. This is all of this like gendered for no reason. Like, what are we trying to do? Are we actually trying to get free, or are we still trying to put people in boxes? Like, is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? Like, which one are we trying to do? Like, what are we doing, y'all? Like, if we're talking about relationships and we're just trying to make sure that people are in a healthy mindset, just, hey, if you think about the future with your person, like, that's cool. That's great. Don't feel pressure to get married. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired already. Next.
All right. Cheating isn't always kissing, touching, or flirting. If you got to delete text messages so your partner won't see them, you're already there.
Wait. Okay, yeah. I can go with that one. I can go with that one.
You think that's valid advice?
That one.
Okay. All right.
I feel like it's valid advice. I feel like a characteristic I always tell people about is you have to, whatever the boundaries are in your relationship, if that is a boundary, if like kissing, touching, and flirting is a boundary that violates your thing, then yeah, fine. It's cheating.
All right. Well, let's see this. Take your man on a date, pay, go home, throw it back, the end. That's the end of Vannessa's advice.
Only if he's worth it. Only if he's worth it. If he ain't, I ain't doing
it. It's not for nothing. All right, now we got Black and Masculine giving us advice. I don't know who needs to hear this, but give your man his flowers for being faithful and not cheating. What do we think?
No. The bar. If I need to give you your flowers for being faithful and not cheating, that means the bar is literally the floor. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that anyway. You don't get cookies. You don't get cookies and brownie points for literally showing up and being a good partner. And sorry, before you get to this, shows me how much men don't even have good expectations for other men. Because essentially, you're just like, you can't even hold each other to a good standard, a fair standard. Like, you really are trying to do the bare minimum, and you want flowers for it? Get out of here. Get out of here. Just don't be in a relationship. Just don't.
All right. Well, listen. So now we got Dre over here telling us this think like a man mindset that a lot of Black women adopted is part of the reason they ain't feeling protected. They not thinking like the divine masculine Black man. They thinking like the who hurt them. So I think the
this
point.
Thing like a mindset. Oh. Okay. I think
Yeah, no. I think Dre might have missed this one.
You stopped me. The divine masculine. Y'all just making stuff up just as you go.
That feels like that feels like a predictive text in the last part there.
It just feels. I feel like first part of it for me is the first part of it, again, all of these, the author of this and even the Think Like a Man franchise is run. Like, it is all very male-centered.
Yeah.
and even if you're going to keep getting these same issues, you don't actually care about what women think. You just want them to do what you.
Uh-oh. We lost Vannessa for a second, but I promise she's probably going to pop back in. Just talking about Think Like a Man. For those of y'all who are live with us right now, feel free to like and follow in the meantime. Oh, she's back.
I don't know why my internet's doing. And it's like I have 5 bars. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's all right. You were telling us about Think Like a Man, and I feel like that was an important point to finish.
Yeah, I was just saying that all of it, even this tweet, the Think Like a Man franchise, a lot of these relationship gurus are men who are never actually talking to men. So we're going to keep failing and going around in the same circle of hypocrisy, of women doubting themselves, of people actually trying to date and have relationships based on like real emotion and really being a human. Because right now we're on check boxes, we're on wait periods, we're on, don't blow up their phone because you don't want to seem desperate. There's all of these weird, it's not even human.
Speaking of, here's our next piece of advice or / commentary, because not really so much advice, right? We have everyone wants a good man until a good man requires you to be a good woman. Now, I don't know what you hear.
I'm pretty sure.
What's a good woman?
I'm pretty sure one man wrote this. I'm still sure they just used the stock photo of a woman to put it in there. But like, I'm pretty sure.
Right? You don't think it's this woman right here in the photo? You don't think this is her quote? So here we have a slightly different commentary going on.
You wouldn't do this to yourself. What's happening here? You wouldn't do this to your sandwich. Okay, goodbye. Chantelle, I'm ready to go. Just like, let me go. You see, maybe my computer knew. Maybe the internet was not the activity for me. Just next.
Look, yeah, here's a piece of advice that I feel like is not too bad. This is one of the top relationship advice givers. He's also a religious Black man, much like Jared Jackson out here.
You put me on. I've never heard of him before. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking up stuff for this show, and I was seeing Stefan over here. Stefan speaks. Nobody should ever have to chase after anybody. It should be 2 people running towards each other to build an amazing relationship.
Fine, I'll let y'all have it since you need little quotes and tidbits and stuff. Sometimes my relationship advice is not 140 characters, so I get it. Sometimes you need to succinctly, but yeah, I'll give them. We gotta have 2 people.
What about this Stefan piece? We got a relationship should be helping each other deal with the stress that the world brings, not adding unnecessary stress to each other's lives. What do you think about that? Sure.
It's just like you make it so simple. Like, and this is the thing that I love about Chantelle is that Chantelle goals. And the thing about these types of like just blurbs and tidbits is that they don't give people the real life tools to be able to say like, okay, well, how am I going to deal with the stress? A lot of us need to actually go to therapy and deal with our stress. A lot of people, which is something that I've been bringing up with my own significant other during the pandemic, I realized through like listening to stories of my friends, men don't have friends. So essentially men dump their stuff on their partners and their partners have other people to be able to deal like, hey girl, am I tripping? Hey girl, me and my man got in a little, men don't have that. And men have a lot of secrecy, and therefore there's a lot of stress that comes into the relationship. And now this person's supposed to be your advisor, counselor, significant other, the person who gives you your flowers for not cheating. Like, it's just so many different things. And so we are not equipped to deal. So it is easy to just be like, oh, help us combat the stress without being like, hey, have you done your internal work? Hey, are you a whole person walking into this relationship? Hey, are you not looking for someone else to validate you within this relationship? Like, there's so many things that we need to bring into relationships to make them successful that these gurus are hardly touching on.
Let me ask you something that has come up a lot for me lately. I've been hearing a lot of people with some theories on the fact that men and women cannot be friends. So like, there's people who will get into relationships and have rules, right? They range from you can't follow other people of a different gender, you know, all the way up to you can't have any friends anywhere that sort of are the opposite gender or the gender that you're attracted to. How healthy do you think that is when people start setting up rules like that?
I think personally, I think it's unhealthy, like, right? Because essentially I like to get down to the root of why do you have this rule, right? And any rules that you have, like, I think there's a difference between boundaries and rules, right? There's a difference between, like, hey, if you are engaging in whatever activities with friends, do you mind giving me a call to let me know when you're coming home? I think that's a boundary. I think it's a good communication boundary. But to be like, you can't go out and hang out with so-and-so or your homegirl or the person that you grew up with, I think right there we're uncovering some trust issues. I think we're also getting at, this is one of those things where I think it can definitely lead to this is like manipulation, because, like, I do think that people need to have their friends. And I think the thing that we oftentimes forget in relationships is that it's outside relationships that enrich us. And we need to keep our outside relationships and our other friendships and relationships with our families going in order to bring our best selves to our relationships. And so when somebody's trying to essentially control that, that's a controlling behavior. That's manipulation. Or if they're like, if you hang out with this person one more time, what's the reason? What's going on? Is there a trust thing that we need to unravel? And I'd rather us talk about that than you can't see. So who can I not see? What's going on? And then I would say, depending on how far this goes, this could be abusive. And right. So, and abusive too, because a lot of times what we see in abusive relationships is there's this isolating that happens. And so this person is completely isolated from the people that care about them, from the people that know them. And then when it's time to leave, or if they need advice, they don't have their folks with them. Now you're becoming reliant upon this person or this person that you're with.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to understand this question that's coming up in the comment. Am I okay to ask the background of those relationships? How do you know you have them, and have you dated them? Or should you stay in ignorant bliss?
Ooh. Okay, so what I'm gathering from this, okay, I think that this is a good question. Like, do you ask somebody, like, hey, have you been with people? Like, have you been in like an unhealthy relationship? Have you been in an abusive relationship? I would think that as you're getting to know that person, I would think that there would be some sort of like time to talk about like past relationships. And I think especially now as grown folks, as you're getting to know people, like, hey, tell me why you're single. Whatever.
So you're not a past in the past type of person. You don't think we should just leave it all in the past and not talk about?
I think it depends, but I also think it naturally comes up though. Sometimes I think like, you know, sometimes there's things that happen that remind you of like your past person, or like things that you're like, I know I'm really at this time presently working on this thing because this person did X to me or something. So I think like sometimes naturally it might come up, but I do think you're right. I do think that there is some like, you know, there's things in the past, leave them in the past. But I don't know. I think if you're having a vulnerability moment, I don't think this is the first date or even like, you know.
Maybe not as an opener.
This is not a first month of dating kind of conversation. But I think if you guys are going deeper and if you think like, wow, this is going somewhere, like, hey, tell me about what ended your last relationship. I think that is a valid question to ask, because now we get to navigate and see what's going on. And maybe there's some patterns, maybe there's something like, maybe there's some things that y'all two can work on together. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be framed as a negative thing, but definitely not like first few dates. Definitely not the first time.
So she's asking separately, if you're talking about asking about friends that your partner has.
Oh, I'm not talking about.
Like you have a friend that you, and this is actually a question in both directions, because men and women, I think, both think this. They have a friend of the opposite gender, and you're like, hey, I'm okay with you guys hanging out, but did you sleep together? Right? Like, is he interested in you? Is she interested in you? Did you guys ever have a relationship? That kind of stuff. That I know some people who would be offended by asking, but most of those people are a little gray area.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's, well, here's the thing. The number one thing that I've learned with relationships, and I think in communication relationships, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm.
Hey, smash that person? What y'all doing? Compared to, hey, tell me about how did you meet so-and-so? Tell me about how long have you known them? That's a difference.
Now it's going to be awkward if you come back with that heat energy. Because now you was all
tell me how you know them. And then if they could, they'll probably drop. I mean, if they're an honest person, they'll probably drop it and be like, yeah, well, we used to kick it, but we realized that it wasn't for us. Or like, no, that's just my homie. That's just my friend or whatever. Or we met in college, or like, oh, that's the homie from, back in BSU days, like whatever.
Well, I mean, listen, we're running up on 8:00, so I'm going to make sure that we get you because you got more advice just like this to give. So you got an event coming up, which is Sex Ed 101 or Relationship Advice 101 for Black girls and femmes. And
yes. So yes, that is actually, why didn't I come prepared with the link though? Like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I did not even come prepared with the link. But yes, at 8:00 or a little bit after 8, because we can go a minute or two later. Started a workshop series called Sex Ed for Black Girls and Femmes. And essentially it's a safe, free space for us to get together and learn, right? And so, like I said, it's important for us as adults. A lot of us have never gotten sex ed. And the question, like, I like how Chantelle brought up earlier, it's like, how am I supposed to learn? Or how am I supposed to know these things if I was never taught? And just because you never taught does not mean that, like, you became an adult and all of a sudden you knew. We just continue to grow up without the tools. And so Sex Ed for Black Girls and Femmes is our Sex Ed 100 level for us to come, commune, have a good time. And this is actually classes in session. We are learning. Our part 1 was a couple weeks ago. We talked about, what is a healthy and unhealthy relationship? What is an abusive relationship? What are those things? We play games, we make it fun. We're left with resources. So tonight is part 2 because people are like, I got some stuff I got to let out.
Oh, it is not a short conversation. So I'm glad you got a workshop. If there were the biggest kind of warnings that you give out to Black women and girls just before we head over to the official free Black Girls and Femmes, what are the biggest things that you find yourself repeating?
Ooh, the biggest thing that I repeat. Ooh, Chantelle, what is this, Oprah? I love it. I would say the thing that I say a lot is struggle love is not your destiny. And I say that because I feel like oftentimes as Black women, Black women and femmes, we are taught that you got to be a ride or die. You got to be in there in the struggle. You have to prove your love, prove your commitment. And I want us to be in a space where Black girls and femmes do not have to struggle in order to get happiness or struggle in order to, get their end result. I always also like to tell people that it is super important that your relationship doesn't need to look like anybody else's. There's no shoulds that you shouldn't have to be doing anything as like a woman, or like, this is what we should be doing. Women do this, or like, as a person in a partnership, I need to be doing. What does freedom look like for you in your relationship? What does happiness look like for you in your relationship? And just do that. And so you don't have to follow any scripts. You get to set the rules. This is your life. You get to set the rules. You get to find what you want. And so those things are the things that I repeat most often. And I feel like in my soapboxes.
And I think the no should thing, that's in life. Like, forget a relationship. Like, do your life. Be authentic. Live you. You're not doing this for anybody else, guys. You're not doing it for anybody else. Okay? On VagEsteem, we got a whole episode about how to sit down on somebody's face if you really want to do it. You know what I mean? Life is wide and open for you guys out here.
You just get to envision it. That's the wonderful thing about life. Like,
so I'm scrolling like I'm joining I'm on the link for you guys to join the Black Girls and Femmes Relationship 101 tonight. If you want to join live and get to do this conversation with Vannessa. The way that I always end the show is with a tarot card pull for the people, just so that we could have a takeaway message, because I'm bad at endings and I like to let the ancestors wrap it up for me.
Yes.
And so I'm going to keep that scroll going at the bottom, and we are going to just do our tarot pick of the day with that scroll link so that everybody can switch over and, you know, just get this little juiciness.
Yes. And if it's too confusing, you can just find me on Instagram at VagEsteem and I will send you the link.
Right. Make sure that everybody finds you. That's VagEsteem at VagEsteem now. All right. So we make sure that we got that. It's spelled just like that. Go ahead and put an @ next to it. That is the handle. Okay. So the card that I got today is the Moon card reversed. And so the Moon card is all about intuition, right? And all about following paths by faith, because you can see, right, the waves crashing around old girl here. I always love it when the color of the card matches the color of the person's outfit I'm talking to. So I'm also glad that Vanessa's wearing blue. Okay, so in reverse,
yes,
it just indicates being able to deal with the illusions and also letting fear subside. So you can always choose to either free yourself or to store them away in your subconscious. However, eventually you'll have to clear up the confusion. So it may as well be now. When it comes to healthy relationships, it's a fair card. You might be scared. You might have some illusions. You might have some fears. You might have been brought up in an environment where people told you a lot of things about who to be and how to act and what sex should be and what it isn't. But it is up to you to create your truth, right? So you can clear the illusions up now, or you can get into a relationship and clear the illusions up the hard way. All right? Okay, so I'll see you here next Thursday. We only got a couple episodes left, y'all, of People Always Ask. Thank you so much, Vannessa. And if the people want to find you, find VagEsteem everywhere, okay? At VagEsteem everywhere, so that you can find more juicy goodness. And that includes tonight's event of more wonderful community sex ed for free. My favorite type of education. That's why we
listen.
Thank you for coming on.
I don't give too much stuff away for free.
Thank
you so much for having me. This is so amazing. And thank you so much for having this space.
Have a good night.
Talk to you later.